and welcome. We are here with Mike Kilburn, your next congressman, folks. This is an opportunity you can't afford to miss this evening. If you have an hour before you cast your vote, you must listen to this next hour. We are going to go over some things, and you will know when this hour is over who will earn your vote. Mike Kilburn. Mike, you are been called Mr. Conservative. The Enquirer last week said you are a, quote, icon in Warren County. Tell us what you're doing with this congressional race and share a little bit about yourself, please.
Well, thank you, Green. I started this campaign back in probably December, and I just feel that this country's at a crossroads, and we really need to get back to the basics. We've got a lot of conservative Republicans who've lost their way in Congress, and we need to stop the spending. We need to slit this thing's throat right now, and when the Republicans take over in January, we need to make sure we have solid conservatives there to keep this thing floating. I mean, we're really living in perilous times, and this country's living on debt, and the Republicans, like I said, they've lost their way, and we really need to get on top of this to protect the future of our kids and our grandkids.
Now, Mike, we just the show that was on before us, we talked to them for a few minutes, and the person made the comment. He said, well, Jean Schmidt's voting record, it's okay. She does okay on the votes, and there's a bumper sticker on the door that says, vote them all out. Let's look at Jean's voting record a little bit, and why don't we start with the $700 billion bailout that she voted for that sent our tax dollars to millionaire Wall Street bankers. Mike, how do you feel about that bill?
Well, the only thing worse than Obama trying to destroy this country is the Republican Congresswoman and others like her that is helping him get there. She voted for TARP, which was the largest spending bill in the history of this country, that bailed out the big banks and really did a whole lot more than bail out the banks. We changed capitalism in this country with TARP. You look at it, General Motors, the biggest corporation in the history of the world. The old saying used to be, what's good for General Motors is good for America. That company is totally owned by the federal government now. And, that's just not the capitalistic way. Then on the stimulus bill, on Obama's stimulus bill, Jean voted against the stimulus, but she proposes spending the stimulus money. In fact, she made a comment that, we got to get our share because it's there, and if we don't spend it, someone else will. Well, that's a terrible example. You wouldn't do that with your money that you inherited from your family. You wouldn't do that with excess funds that your spouse made. You need to spend money that's not borrowed money. After all, this money's not even our money. We don't have the money. We're borrowing all this money from China. And, this stimulus money, I'll tell you a little story about stimulus, actually money that goes back before stimulus. And one of the primary reasons that I decided to run against Jean. County commissioners are the recipient of a lot of federal funds. In fact, most of the federal funds flow through the county courthouses. And it takes 2 county commissioners to agree to accept this money and put this money out to the individual communities. And I've always been very hesitant to accept any of this federal money because the federal government has no business going in debt and spending money for local projects, in my opinion. I believe that the local communities should stand on their own, and that we shouldn't be continuing to go in debt to fund projects, regardless of what they might be. They might be road projects, they might be sewer projects, or whatever they are. But the local communities and the state governments need to be the governmental entities that put that money out. But anyway, a small story. Jean called me about a year ago and in a cheerleading fashion proceeded to tell me that she had gotten $400,000 for a little village, actually the village I'm from in Mora, Ohio. And I said to her, Jean, we don't even have that money. We're borrowing the money to do projects in all of these little communities, and that's not the conservative way that I want to see my congressman operating. That, my friend, was probably the first day I decided that we needed a new congressperson in the 2nd District in the state of Ohio.
Now, Mike, we mentioned her voting record. she voted against the stimulus. She likes to run around telling people that. But Fox News last month put her on national TV because she sent this letter asking for a $4 million green project. And she also likes to tout her, quote, conservative record and how the American Conservative Union has given her a 100% rating this year. Well, if you look back a year, there's two big black marks beside her name when it comes to that record. One is TARP, which we've already touched on. The other is earmarks. And Jean had the opportunity to refuse earmarks, to vote against them. Mike, did she vote against them, or does Jean want earmarks? And what do you feel about earmarks, Mike?
Well, earmarks are just part of that continuous drain on our federal treasury. Congress people, including Gene Schmidt, a lot of them, they think their primary goal as a congressman is to bring pork back to the districts that they represent. You look at John Boehner. John Boehner doesn't take earmarks. John Boehner has never taken earmarks. Steve Chabot doesn't take earmarks. Gene Schmidt does. She thinks that's part of her job to see how much money she can bring back home from Washington. And in the good days, when that money was earned and banked and in surplus funds the old-fashioned way, then maybe it would make sense to bring some money home to do a project in your area. But in these perilous times, when this country's going broke, when we're about to lose our AAA bond rating for the first time in the history of the country, when we're in a situation where our debt is 10 times larger than our total budget was just 10 years ago, we've got to stop the spending. And, I have a letter here that Jean, in October, she sent to the Secretary of Labor, and I'll just read it to you here. Dear Secretary Solis, I am writing in support of the Ohio Valley Associated Builders and Contractors application for funding under the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act's Energy Training Partnership.
I.e. the stimulus program.
The stimulus program. Pathways Out of Poverty Green Destinations Program. Well, folks, let me tell you something. Anything with a title like that, I've never voted for as a county commissioner. If I can't pronounce an ABC program with just 3 letters, then it's bureaucratized to the extent that I just can't support it anyway. But anyway, the letter goes on to say, it's my understanding that the OVABC is requesting $4 million to facilitate the provision of green construction industry technical training, basic education improvements, and supportive services for 1,300 low-income individuals in Southern Ohio. Well, I want to help low-income individuals in Southern Ohio as much as Gene Schmidt or anyone else does. But I don't want to spend borrowed money to do it on a program it's green construction. Conservatives don't have a real good view of green construction to start with.
I would hope not.
Let's face it, guys. We need to get back to the basics, and we need to do things the old-fashioned way. And when all of these PhDs and all of these folks that are running our universities today and infiltrating our young people's minds with all of the innovative and green projects that they think that Al Gore proposes and Al Gore thinks that we ought to go with. And see, that's the whole problem. The Republicans have lost their way. They have bought into this bureaucratization of big government and brought it back home. And we need to change the mindset of Congress people who are participating in protecting our federal treasury. They're not participating at all in protecting anything. All they're doing is spending money. And when I get to Congress, I'm going to try to find the most like-minded individuals like myself who are truly conservative and are truly concerned with keeping us from going broke in the name of keeping up with the Joneses, so much like Gene Schmidt has led us down that pathway. The letter goes on to say, I've been informed that this project will increase the number of women and minorities employed in the construction field. Now, does that sound like a Republican conservative comment to you, Green?
Sounds like a Republican in name-only comment.
Well, kind of. It has also been explained to me that this project will not only save jobs, but create multiple jobs within Southern Ohio. And it's $4 million. And when we consider, the large debt that we have, $4 million is not a whole lot of money. But see, there's 435 of these guys up there. And, $4 million here and $4 million there. And after a while, it all adds up to real money, don't it?